Hello and welcome to the DW Toys and Comics channel here on YouTube. At DW Toys and Comics, we specialize in collectible comics and toys ranging from the vintage to the modern era. We sell collectibles at many toy shows and Comic-Cons in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, and we are looking to expand out even further in the future. We also have an eBay store where we have hundreds of listings of awesome toys and comics available for purchase. We ship anywhere in the US, and we add many new items to our store every week. On this channel, we'll discuss collecting toys and comics, as well as exploring various topics from within the collector community. We'll also provide inventory updates to highlight when key issue comics and high demand toys are added to the store. If you are a fan of action figure toys, superheroes, sci-fi items, fantasy collectibles, and/or comics, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can see more updates from us in the future. Today is November 11th, 2022, and we are going to be looking at some of the new key comic issues we have recently added to our eBay store. Please stay through to the end of the video to find out how you can save an extra 15% on your purchase during the month of November. Some important notes about our eBay store. DW Toys and Comics offers combined shipping when you purchase multiple items. Message us on eBay for details. DW Toys and Comics ships anywhere in the United States. We are not able to offer international shipping outside of the US at this time. That may change in the future, but as of right now, it's US customers only. And to find us on eBay, our eBay user ID is DWVENTURES. So without further ado, let's look at some comics. First up, we have some different Amazing Spider-Man issues. Spider-Man's my favorite comic book character. He's actually the comic book superhero that got me into comics, that drew me in the late 80s and early 90s. So I have a big affinity for the character. And these are some great key issues that we've recently added to our store inventory. So the first one up is Amazing Spider-Man number 365. This issue came out in 1992. This issue actually is a supersized issue, so it's actually got multiple stories in the comic. So there are several different artists and writers that have story credits in this book. So John Romita Sr., Mark Bagley, Chris Alexander, Rick Leonardi, Aaron Lopresti, and Todd Smith all have art credits in this book. And then Peter David, Tom DeFalco, Stan Lee, and David Michelin all have story credits in this book. This was a 30th anniversary special edition issue that came out. So again, it's got it's got several stories. It also has a silver hologram and a nice black spider web outline for the cover. It displays really well. It's really eye-catching. There's a fold-out centerfold poster inside, and then which is intact in this book. And then there's also got the very first appearance of Spider-Man 2099 in a preview portion in the back of the issue. Of course, Spider-Man 2099 was probably the biggest of the 2099 characters as far as popularity. He's actually being talked about as being in the next Spider-Verse movie. So it's a big issue for that reason, as well as everything else that's in there. It's definitely a good one to have, and anytime you've got a character's first appearance in a book, it's just going to drive demand. It's already a hot book, and it probably will get hotter down the road, especially when the next Spider-Verse movie comes out. So the next one up we have is Amazing Spider-Man number 392. This issue came out in 1994. Mark Bagley did the art, and J.M. DeMatteis did the story for this book. The book itself has continuation of the Shrieking story, and character that was introduced very recently prior to this issue was the new villain Carrion. Um, his story is, of course, continued in this book. But the real reason this is more of a key issue is the fact that the cover is a homage cover to the Amazing Spider-Man number 50 that originally came out in 1967. Of course, on that cover, it's very similar to this one. It says Spider-Man no more. This one says, Peter Parker no more in the aftermath of tragedy. So it's a throwback to that really iconic and classic artwork from that Amazing Spider-Man number 50, which really makes this a desirable book more than the story itself. So it's a cover buy, which is pretty common with really iconic artwork covers. So the next one is Amazing Spider-Man number 317. This issue came out in 1989. Art is by Todd McFarlane, and the story is by David Michelin. So Todd McFarlane just did such amazing artwork with everything that he touched, and when he got to do the Amazing Spider-Man for a while, it really just took things to another level. So much so that Marvel eventually gave Todd his own Spider-Man title, titled Spider-Man. This was after they already had at the time. They had Amazing Spider-Man, they had Spectacular Spider-Man, they had Web of Spider-Man. So Spider-Man, the title, was actually the fourth one that Marvel was running concurrently at this time. And Todd McFarlane, because of his amazing work in the Amazing Spider-Man, got to run that. But this is one from before that Spider-Man title took off. This is issue 317, which had Venom in it, of course. You can see from the cover that the symbiote suit is attacking Spider-Man there. Very classic McFarlane cover. Continuation of the Venom story, which of course Todd McFarlane created Venom. Definitely a really cool issue to have. Every one of Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man covers, actually really anything he did at Marvel, is become really hot lately. And so this is one that if you don't already have in your collection, here's one that's available for you to pick up. And then the last one that we have on here is Amazing Spider-Man number 529. This issue came out in 2006. It was art by Brian Hitch and Ron Garney, and then the story was by J. Michael Straczynski, which is one of my favorite writers of all time. J. Michael Straczynski actually created Babylon 5, which is my favorite science fiction show of all time. As big of a fan as I am for Star Trek and Star Wars, Babylon 5 is just such a freaking amazing story. If you watch it today, the special effects definitely look dated. It's really early computer generated special effects. It was groundbreaking for the time. Looks pretty rudimentary by today's standards, but the story itself is fantastic. If you've never watched Babylon 5, I highly recommend it. Michael Straczynski is an amazing writer. He's got credits over all kinds of pop culture and sci-fi and fantasy, TV and movies and books. And so anything he does, I'm a big fan of. In this particular issue, getting back to Spider-Man, has the very first appearance of the Iron Spider suit, which of course was featured in Avengers Infinity War. And then this book itself is, a build up to that Civil War storyline that was such a big deal back in that 2006 time frame. So definitely a cool issue to have. So that's some of our Spider-Man books that we've recently added to the store. So moving on from Spider-Man, we have some Prince Namor the Submariner books. And these books are all Silver Age, early in the title run from the late 1960s. Namor, of course, is a character, dates all the way back to the Golden Age. He was one of the first, if not the first, major comic book characters, superheroes ever, back from what was originally Timely Comics. So in the late 1960s, Marvel launched this new title of, well, what was then a new title of Prince Namor the Submariner, and these are some early issues from that run. So first up, we have issue number 4 from 1968. John Buscema and Frank Ray have the art credits for this book, and Roy Thomas has the writing credits. So this issue number 4 has got a classic cover by John Buscema. This is just some of the amazing artwork that really drew folks in back in the day. Of course, it was young kids grabbing comics off of the newspaper stand back in the day, and it took really spectacular artwork to kind of grab kids' attention back then, and this cover doesn't disappoint. It's pretty amazing. Next up, we have Submariner number 9 from 1969. Dan Adkins, John Romita Sr., Herb Trimpe, and Marie Severin all have art credits for this book, and Roy Thomas did the story. So this issue has the first appearance of Naga, as well as the Serpent Crown. So big key book, big key issue in the Submariner series. After that, we have issue number 11 from 1969. Dan Adkins and Gene Colan have the art credits for this book, and then Roy Thomas did the story again. This book has a Captain Barracuda appearance, and it's again got just one of those really eye-catching, awesome covers. So, a great early book to have. And then issue 19 from 1969. So Johnny Craig and Marie Severin did the art in this book. Roy Thomas has the story credits. This issue 19 has the very first appearance of Stingray, who of course was Walter Newell. So yeah, another key issue, some pretty cool Silver Age Namor books. And while these 4 are the ones that I'm talking about, we actually have other early late 1960s Submariner books in the store, so definitely go check it out. Alright, so moving on from Prince Namor the Submariner, we have some Avengers books and then some books with major Avengers characters. So our first one up is Avengers number 48. This issue came out in 1968. It has art by George Tuska and Sam Rosen, and story by Roy Thomas. This issue has the first appearance of Dane Whitman as the Black Knight, which of course the character Dane Whitman was in the recent Eternals movie. So this book's been pretty hot ever since then. Anytime a comic character makes it into the MCU, their key issues, first appearances tend to climb in demand, so this book's no exception. It's definitely one that you want to have in your Silver Age Avengers and Marvel collection. After that, we have Avengers number 58, which also came out in 1968. Art by John Buscema, story by Roy Thomas. This book has the origin of the Vision, the Silver Age origin of Vision. It also has Vision joining the Avengers, so a big major key for that character and for the Avengers team from that era. After that, we have Tales of Suspense number 48 from 1963. This book has art by Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, and Larry Lieber. Story by Stan Lee and Larry Lieber. Anytime you have a book with major Marvel characters and Stan Lee and Jack Kirby both contributed to it, it's a hot title. This particular issue has the first appearance of the villain Mr. Doll, but more than that, it has the first appearance of Iron Man in a red and gold Iron Man suit, which of course is kind of the standard color scheme to this day. this dates all the way back to 1963, and this was the first time that color scheme ever appeared in comics for an Iron Man suit. So prior to that, immediately prior to that, he had a gold suit, and then of course his first Iron Man suit was kind of a grayish silver metal metallic suit. So changing to the red and gold, to this day again is the standard, and it was a big deal. It's a major issue that you definitely want to have if you're an Iron Man fan. And then the last one we have here for this page is Marvel Double Feature #1. And this issue actually came out in 1973. This issue has a compilation of older classic stories, and it features Iron Man and Captain America. So it's got artwork and story from older Marvel issues that were reprinted in this. And so Jack Kirby and Gene Colan have the art credits. Stan Lee has the story credit because it's from much older Marvel that this book had its story taken. So the cover's a classic Iron Man and Captain America cover, and being the first issue of the series that came out in 1973, it's a pretty big deal. Next up, we have some Thor titles. The Mighty Thor, the Thunder God. So our first issue up here for key Thor books is Thor, the Mighty Thor #148. This issue came out in 1968. This is another one of those books that has Jack Kirby doing the art and Stan Lee doing the story. For my money, anytime you have those two as the main art and story credits for an older book, it's an issue worth having for sure. So this issue #148 has the first appearance of the Wrecker, Garthwaite. It also has Black Bolt's origin story, so pretty cool key issue there. After that, we have Thor #151 from 1968. Jack Kirby and Vince Colletta have the art credits, and then Stan Lee has the story credit for this book. As you can see on the cover, the Destroyer is featured in this issue. Classic cover, classic Jack Kirby art cover there. And if you read the story, it actually has some elements that you can tell inspired the first Thor movie. In fact, several of the issues around this time period have stories that inspired the first Thor movie, if you go back and read through them. So definitely a good book to have. The next one up is issue 169 from 1969. You can see on the cover there the outline of the planet eater Galactus. This book actually has the origin of Galactus, which of course would be told in different books over the years, but this being in the Thor title, Thor actually has a meeting with Galactus, and Galactus kind of recounts basically where he came from and how he became what he is. Thor is one of the beings in the Marvel Universe that Galactus, Thor's powerful enough that Galactus has respect for Thor, and so he grants him an audience and tells him where he came from. So pretty cool book, neat looking cover. It's just one of my favorites actually from that early Thor run. And then the last one up here on the screen is What If #10, and this issue came out in 1978. John Buscema and Rick Hoberg did the art, and Don Gillette has the story credit. Key thing about this book is that it's the first appearance of Jane Foster as the Mighty Thor, which of course, was the basis for Thor: Love and Thunder, which came out earlier this year. This book has the very first time that you ever see Jane as Thor, so pretty cool Pretty cool key issue there. This book spiked big time leading up to Thor: Love and Thunder. It's cooled down a little, but it's still a very cool book that you want to have. And if you're a fan of Thor, if you like the Thor movies, this is definitely one that you need in your library. So now we go from the God of Thunder to Captain America. We have a few books here that are key Captain America issues. Well, books with key Captain America elements, because obviously, as you can see, they're not all Captain America issues. But our first one up is Captain America 112. This issue came out in 1969. Jack Kirby and Frank Ray have the art credits, and Stan Lee has the story credits. You know, again, anytime you have a book that has both Jack Kirby and Stan Lee contributing to the book, you know, it's one that you need to have if you know, are a fan at all of classic Marvel, or you just Silver Age in general. I mean, those are the guys that really defined Silver Age comics. So this is an album issue. The origin of Captain America is retold. There's also a lot of retelling of Captain America meetups and battles with various villains, as you can see there on the cover. A lot of this is retold by Tony Stark in this issue by Iron Man. So, cool issue to have. Really awesome looking Jack Kirby cover. Early in the Captain America run, of course, Captain America started with issue 100, so this is only 12 issues later. So definitely a cool one to have from back in the Silver Age era. The next one up is not actually a Captain America issue. It's Uncanny X-Men number 268. This issue came out in 1990. Jim Lee did the artwork in this book. Chris Claremore has a story. Now, Jim Lee books, Jim Lee X-Men is really what got so many people into X-Men in the 90s. Jim Lee's artwork was just fantastic and amazing, and really just such a standout. You know, those Jim Lee covers always stood out on the comic book store shelves. Pretty much like Todd McFarlane Spider-Man books stood out and rejuvenated that series. Jim Lee did everything for X-Men that Todd McFarlane did for Spider-Man in the early 90s. So this particular book has a cover, a very iconic cover with Wolverine, Black Widow, and of course, the subject we're talking about, Captain America. The artwork from this cover has been reprinted on posters and canvas art pieces and all kinds of merchandise in the last 30 years. So very iconic artwork there that originated in this issue. And that's really the biggest reason that this is a sought after issue is the cover. It's a cover buy for sure. After that, we have All New Captain America #1. This book came out in 2015, so of course this is a modern age book. Stuart Immonen, Wade von Grobiger, and Marte Crescia have the artwork credits, and if I'm mispronouncing any of those names, I deeply apologize. Rick Remender has the story credits. This book has the second ever appearance of Sam Wilson as Captain America. It also has the first appearance of Ian Rogers as Nomad. So, pretty cool book to have. It's first title in a series, or first issue in a series title, and only the second ever appearance of Sam Wilson as Captain America, who, you know, of course, in the MCU today, Sam Wilson is Captain America. So anything with his early Captain America appearances is become a hot book, and this one's no exception. And the last one we have is Captain America Sam Wilson #7. This issue came out in 2016. Artwork in this book, Matt Yackey and Daniel Acuna Perez did the interior artwork. Alex Ross did the cover, and Alex Ross is, I think I mentioned him earlier. He is one of my favorite artists. In fact, Alex Ross and Todd McFarlane are probably my two favorite artists. You know, Jim Lee is probably number three. But yeah, Alex Ross artwork is just on such another level. I mean, it's so realistic and so detailed and just amazing. And it's a beautiful cover. I mean, it just he just does phenomenal work. This issue, of course, has Winter Soldier story as well. Nick Spencer did the story. Just an amazing Alex Ross cover, and that's really what makes this more of a highly desirable book than probably anything else. So next up, we have a few titles here that are a little more random than the previous books we've looked at. So the first one is Marvel Spotlight on Ghost Rider number 11. This issue came out in 1963. Rich Buckler, Mike Esposito, and Tom Sutton have the writing credits on this book, and then Gary Frederick does the story. This isn't a very major key issue, but what it is it's a graded comic book, and as you can have seen through the video, I don't have a lot of graded comics in my collection or in my eBay store. It's just not something that I go after. Now, I do buy collections pretty frequently, and if there is graded books in the collection, of course, I'll buy those too. But I don't go after collections that are all graded, or I just graded things just aren't my big deal. It may change in the future, but as of right now, I'm just not. It's just not so much my thing. I like being able to look through a book, and you can't do that once it's slabbed. So anyway, because it's graded, it's in my eBay store. Again, because it's not really my thing. And so I'm putting it on this video just to show that, hey, this is available if you're into graded books and you're a Ghost Rider fan and you don't have this one, it's available for purchase. Next up is Ghost Rider number 15. This issue came out in 1991. Artwork is by Mark Teixeira and Howard Mackey, and then Howard Mackey also did the story. The key thing about this book is that it's got a glow-in-the-dark cover. And it's a really cool-looking glow-in-the-dark cover. Ghost Rider was, he was a big character back in the 90s. I mean, he'd been an important Marvel character for a long time, but, when Danny Ketch became Ghost Rider in the 90s, and they had that run of his book, it was, he was such a character that Marvel put a lot of faith in. Anytime Marvel wanted to kind of drum up sales for a title that might be struggling a little bit, they would do a guest star crossover appearance, and inevitably the three major Marvel characters that they always had do guest star appearances with were either Wolverine or Spider-Man or Ghost Rider. Those were the three characters that you see crossover into other titles more than just about anybody else in that era. And it's just because the sales of Ghost Rider were really good back then. So this particular issue isn't a major key as far as the content. It's a key because of the cover. It's a cover buy, and it's a really cool cover buy. I've got one on display with my collection, and this is an issue that was in a recent collection I purchased, so it was extra, so it's up for sale. After that, we have the Heroic Age Avengers number 1. This issue came out in 2010. It's got art by Klaus Johnson, Dean White, and John Romita Jr. Story by Brian Michael Bendis. Now, the noteworthy thing about this issue, this book, is that it has the first cameo appearance of Azari T'Challa. And of course, with the new Black Panther movie coming out today in the U.S., anything that is around that Black Panther lore, or connected to Black Panther, T'Challa, Black Panther, Azari T'Challa is a big deal. So yeah, that's really the main point for this book as far as why there's some value in it. And then the last one I have on here in this slide is Black Panther Dark Reign #1 from 2011. It's got art by Ken Lashley and Paul Neary, and then story by Reginald Hudland. The big deal about this particular book, and this is a variant cover version of this book, but the main cover has the same thing, is that it's the first cover appearance of Shuri as the Black Panther. This variant cover is a different pose, but it's still got her character on the cover, and it's actually a wraparound cover by Ken Lashley. So, very hot title, especially, again, with the new Black Panther movie coming out today. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure it's going to do very well at the box office. And this particular book, having Shuri as Black Panther, is a big deal. So it's definitely one that you would probably want to have in your collection if you're a fan of that character. And then the last 4 books I want to talk about today, and I know everything's been Marvel up to this point. We actually have a few DC titles that I've added recently as well. So I wanted to make sure and call those out in this video also. So first up we have The Joker #1. This issue came out in 1975. So this was the first solo Joker book. There's been a lot obviously since then, especially in the last maybe 10-15 years, but this is the first time they did it at DC. And so Dick Giordano has the art credits, Dennis O'Neil did the story. Other than this being the first time Joker had his own title, this also has the first appearance of the acid spraying flower on his lapel doing the acid spray thing. So that is a pretty cool and unique piece of Joker history. Of course, that's a staple of the Joker in modern era, and it has been pretty much ever since this issue came out. So pretty cool 1970s DC book up for grabs there. The next one after that is Green Lantern #51. This book came out in 1994. Daryl Banks does the art in this book. Ron Mars did the story. This issue has the first full appearance of Kyle Rayner as the Green Lantern, who of course followed up Hal Jordan's Green Lantern run. Green Lantern, major iconic DC character. They haven't got him right on film yet, but hopefully in the next few years the DC movies will improve in quality, and they'll kind of get more of their lore translated to film in a correct manner, or at least a manner that sells enough tickets and pleases enough of the fan base that that they can get on the MCU level. That's my hope. I'm a Marvel fan first, probably. I do love a lot of 90s DC, especially a lot of the animated DC stuff. You know, of course, in the Bruce Timm DC animated universe, John Stewart was the main Green Lantern, and so for me, John Stewart is probably my favorite Green Lantern, just because he was in so much of the really awesome DC animation from the 90s and the early 2000s. Although they did show a few others, he was the main one, especially in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. But in that mid-90s era, Kyle Rayner was the main Green Lantern that DC was putting out, and this is a pretty cool key issue with having him take the helm for the first time. The next one up is Suicide Squad #1 from 1987. Howard Chaykin and Luke McDonnell have the art credits for this one. John Ostrander did the story. This issue #1 of Suicide Squad is the first time that the Suicide Squad had their own series. They had their first dedicated comic with this issue. Pretty neat to see like how far that group and concept has come into the modern day. You know, of course, they've already had a couple of films, and the team has changed over the years somewhat, but this is the first issue that they actually had them all together in their own series. So, and then the last one I have up here for DC Key Books that we've recently added is Flashpoint #1. This issue came out in 2011. Andy Kubert, Sandra Hope, and Alex Sinclair all have art credits in this book, and then Jeff Johns did the story. This issue of Flashpoint #1 has the very first appearance, the very first full appearance of Thomas Wayne as Batman. It also has the first appearance of Element Woman and the first appearance of Outsider, Michael Desai. So another key issue there. Modern book for sure, but pretty cool one. And a lot of the Flash lore that they have today in the recent DC animated and live action movie stuff came from some of what happened in these modern era Flash books. So this is a big key one for sure. And it's one that I definitely wanted to make sure everyone was aware is available if it's something you're looking for. So anyway, that's what we have for you today. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you haven't already, please hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel. As promised, we do have a coupon code here to save an additional 15% off the price of any item in our eBay store through November 2022. It's there on the screen. NOV22 Save More, all one word, NOV22 SAVEMORE. Again, our eBay user ID is DWVENTURES. That's how you'll find us on eBay. Thanks again for watching, and please be excellent to each other. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.